In continuing our discussion on analyzing common protocols, the next protocol we're going to look at is HTTPS. Now, we've already looked at HTTP, so you might be thinking, well, what's the difference? What's the S for? Well, HTTPS is a secure way of sending normal web traffic, normal HTTP traffic, through an encrypted session between two hosts. Now, there is also a protocol called SHTTP, which you should not confuse HTTPS with. Does that make sense? S-HTTP is a secure protocol in its own right. HTTPS, however, is more commonly used, and it uses Secure Sockets Layer, or SSL. Now, we usually see SSL used during secure web transactions. We might see it used when you're ordering something over the internet from a secure website. We might see it when you're logging into your webmail, for example, Yahoo or Hotmail or whatever, and we encrypt that session using SSL. So you'll see it for secure transactions. Normally we see SSL used over port 443, but again, you can configure your server to use any port you actually want to use. It's normally not advised to do that because a lot of applications expect to see Secure Sockets Layer used over port 443, but you can do it. In any case, I want to show you just a real quick rundown of HTTPS. I want to point out a couple of interesting things about a packet capture using HTTPS and how it differs from normal HTTP. Now we're back in our Wireshark. We're going to start a capture, and we're already connected to the web. We're already on the VTC.com site, but let's go to another site. And I just picked a random banking site, bankofamerica.com, because I know that it uses secure sockets. Now, we're going to get a warning. You're about to view pages over secure connection. Any information we exchange with this site cannot be viewed by anyone else on the web. Well, I hope so. That's the purpose of SSL. So let's say OK. And we're going to go to this actual site. And we're not going to log in or anything like that. But it gives us the option to. Most normal banking sites, like most normal e-commerce sites, will give you the option to log into your account and so forth. And that's why we have up here the HTTPS. That's why we have that, because it's using secure sockets. You can also look down here. Internet Explorer will show you a little lock here and tell you that it's SSL secured. And most browsers will show you something like that, a little icon or something that shows that it's a secure website. Now let's go ahead and close the page. That's all we're going to do is just take a quick look at it. And we're going to go into the capture. Let's stop the capture for a moment. And I want to go back up and start from the beginning. We're going to see standard DNS queries, of course. But then we're going to see some HTTP traffic. We're going to see SYN, SYN-ACK, ACK. So the standard three-way handshakes, the GETs, and things like that. So what I want to do, though, is let's come down here a little bit. And this is where we start seeing some HTTPS traffic right here. We have an HTTPS request, port 443, as you can see, and that's my the client source port. Okay. Just happen to use port 1118. Then we see something very interesting. This is SSL v2. SSL v2, and you'll see SSL v3 also, tell us that it's the protocol that uses Secure Sockets Layer. In this case, it's using version 2. Some sites will use a version 3 also. Now, during an SSL session, there's a hello, and there's also a certificate exchange. That can be mutually that can be used for mutual authentication. That's when the client and the server both have to provide a certificate. But usually, for most of our secure websites, it's going to be just a server-side certificate. So the server has to confirm its identity to the user. We don't care who the user is or where they're coming from, because they can come from any client they want to. But we do care what server we're getting to. So we're looking at the SSL v3. We've got a certificate hello, and let's look down here in the middle pane and just look at a couple of things about the Secure Sockets Layer protocol itself. We've got SSL version 3, and there's a lot of things that go on in this. I'm not going to even attempt to explain some of the more complicated things about SSL. It's kind of outside the scope of our discussion. My main point, though, is to show you how the key exchange goes, how the certificate exchange goes in terms of the packets traveling across the protocols. We've got a lot of different things going on here. SSL is a TCP protocol, so TCP is involved as our transport protocol. We've got the exchange of keys. We've got the exchange of the certificates and so forth. We've got to exchange our session keys. There's a lot of things going on here during an HTTPS session, and sometimes it can be hard to follow because depending upon how SSL is configured on the server and on the client for that matter, there's a repetitious kind of exchange that goes back and forth occasionally with SSL. Keys are exchanged and then sometimes the keys are re-exchanged. So you've got a little bit of SSL traffic here throughout this whole conversation. Let's see if we can go and look at this particular TCP stream. And we have another option down here too. We have an SSL stream. Let's look at the TCP stream first. So this is the normal, what we might see during a TCP session for the website. Notice there's a lot of junk there. Some of that's overhead, some of that's encryption going on, of course, so it makes it very difficult for us using a network sniffer to read. So we see a lot of stuff going down there. A lot of stuff we're not going to be able to read unless we know of a good way to bust SSL, to be honest with you. And don't get me wrong, there are ways out there. Sometimes it's not really worth it. Sometimes it's more complicated than you might think. I guess if you really want to break an SSL session bad enough, you probably can. So now that we've looked at our SSL packets inside of the HTTPS capture you've kind of got an idea of how SSL fits into the overall packet analysis. Now we could go a lot more in depth, of course, and I would encourage you to do that if you ever have an occasion to actually look at and analyze HTTPS traffic. But that's just an idea of how it looks.